Welcome everyone to another episode of Kiwi Talks. My guest today has had an awesome career. He has worked on games such as Mirror's Edge Catalyst, A Way Out, and It Takes Two. He is the co-founder of Keepsake Games, and his studio has just recently released their game Jump Space into early access. I'd like to welcome Filip Coulianos. How you doing?
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Thank you for being here.
This beautiful morning. I don't know what time it is where you're at, but...
Well, it's evening here, but it's morning there, so
we perfectly offset 12 hours. Is that?
Yeah. But it's not too late,
cool.
so it's fine.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Just as an icebreaker, I'm going to ask you the most important question you'll ever get asked, okay? Why is Half-Life 2 the Citizen Kane of video games? Because you believe that it is.
Oh, wow. Yeah, definitely. So I think... It has many layers to the answer has many layers, I would say, but I think for me, Half-Life 1 was this sort of perfect blend between an action game that also told stories. Like there were Deus Ex and all these games that were really deep into storytelling and sort of good atmosphere, but I think they were too slow. And I back in the day when I started playing these games, 98, I didn't do English very well, so it had to be short and sweet, whatever the characters were saying, right? And I think Half-Life just sparked the imagination of this sort of very rich world, and I think Half-Life 2 became even bigger because back then I was really into the modding scene, and I became into making computer games thanks to Half-Life and Half-Life 2. So not only did the game itself obviously it was like a huge success and it had a fantastic story and a fantastic world combined with amazing, the physics and sort of puzzling and action and all these things kind of blended together extremely well. But it was also personally for me, a very transformative period in my life where I went from, this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. I want to make games like this. And I was a big part of the Swedish community for level designers. Usually we were all teenagers at the time, but different parts of Sweden. And, sharing documentation. Because back then, you didn't have YouTube. You can just fire up a YouTube video on how to make a level. It was all... So we would do a lot of translation, going like, okay, how do you set the thing up to even open the level you built? How do you build a level without, having everything breaking down? Because there was a lot of rules. It was very technical. And then we would meet a couple of times every year, have a big LAN party with people all over the country, sitting, creating things. And I think that really set off sort of my journey into becoming a professional game developer. So for me, it's kind of like, it's a lot about the game itself, but it has so much more to it because it brought me together with a lot of people who've been close with ever since. And then, of course, it helped me start the career that I'm on. So yeah, it's I'm forever thankful, I would say.
Good answer. Was there anything from Half-Life 2 that you took into Jump Space?
Yeah, I would say, so the thing is, a lot of things initially, I would say like all the movement was very much like Half-Life 2, but over time we've sped up the character. And I think, to be fair, I actually think the movement in Jump Space is better, but I think it's because the world has moved on. Well, of course you have to say that. But I think the world has moved on a little bit. Like Half-Life today feels a little bit slow. And I used to have a wrench in the game. We're gonna bring that back, so we're gonna have a few items that are kind of plays an homage to the Half-Life series. But I think in general, it's more like. It's very strange to say, but it's like, I would say Quake and Half-Life has, because they kind of share a little bit of the same DNA technology-wise, like the way you collide with the world and the way the code kind of propels the character through the world is sort of has a feeling that is still today like top-notch, and not a lot of games do that well. Like when you walk into a wall, you stop. It might sound weird, but you have a lot of games that do a lot of head bobbing and a lot of weird things, where it doesn't feel like you're being blocked by the wall. You're kind of almost like this, kind of like closer to the wall. Like, it's a lot of subtleties there that I think we kind of nailed. We're not there yet, but it's still, so it's very subtle. And I think also you have the characters in the hangar. You kind of like very simple interaction. You walk up and you press and they talk and they say like a sentence. I mean, a lot of other games do that, but yeah, there is a bits and pieces around that I think I usually say like, oh yeah, well, do you want this feature? Okay, is it in Half-Life 2? Yes. Okay, then it's a good idea. Let's put it in. That's usually my gauge. They even have this joke at the office that's, you know, like time until Filip mentions Half-Life, you know, is usually about 3 hours. So like before lunchtime, I would like, oh yeah, but that's like Half-Life. Okay, that's good.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So it's become a meme almost.
Yeah. But you do make a very valid point about how much the first person shooter genre has evolved over time. So stuff that was probably amazing when Half-Life 2 came out obviously might feel a little bit, I suppose, dated. And you've worked on Battlefield and Mirror's Edge, so does that give you more of a glimpse into like how these subtleties and nuances work in first person?
Yeah, I would say so. I never worked on Battlefield actually. I only worked on Mirror's Edge, but I think what we have sort of where we have involved in the sort of the first person kind of movement and all these things and interactions and how we kind of improved on a Half-Life is actually mostly, I would say, in animation. Like we started animating the character, the head. So like when you're doing a reload, for example, or when you're doing an interact, it's not only the arms doing things, it's actually the camera is also moving to kind of accentuate like the movements of the hands. Half-Life does not do that. And I think that's and with a talented animator, that makes all the difference in the world. I remember when we did not have an animator for quite some time at Keepsake Games, so we were like trying to get around having very advanced animations, but then we managed to hire a fantastically talented guy, and he started doing all these subtleties. And I said, the first thing I said when he came to the office, like, okay, so let's make sure that you can animate the first person camera as well when you're doing all the cool movements of the hands and everything. And he's like, okay, no problem. We got that in, and suddenly, you know, the game's level of polish went from here to here. It was like a huge difference. So I would say like that's the biggest change. When it comes to like the character sort of moving through the world and colliding with things, I don't think anything has changed at all. I think there's like probably less optimized code now than it was then. It works exactly the same. So I think it's all about like how you move the camera and have that kind of emphasize the movements that the character is doing. Whether you're landing, like you jump from a big ledge and you fall down on the floor. In Half-Life, the camera would just go like completely flat. Whereas today you would add a little bit of a bounce. So it's like, woof, you have that sort of, as you were in reality, you would land jumping from 1 meter down. You naturally, your head would kind of bob a little bit because your body is sort of absorbing the impact. So a lot of these subtleties are there today that weren't there back then. But I would say that's the main difference. So like I usually moan about how little has changed. Like, come on, man. Like, it can't still be that great. Like, what have we been doing for 20 years, you know? But yeah, there are improvements, but I would say it's mostly in the animation of the camera. So it's all quite nitty-gritty and nerdy, but yeah.
But has there been any, I suppose, massive steps to mitigate potential motion sickness? Because I think that's a problem that still affects some people with first-person games. And was that something you were aware of when you were making Jump Space as well?
Yeah, so I think with regards to motion sickness, I think it's a myth that game devs care about that stuff, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I have never met anybody who were like, oh yeah, we did some science and we realized this works better. I don't think that's the case. I don't
mean in terms of that. I mean like more as in if you have people on your dev team that might be susceptible to motion sickness. So for example, I remember speaking to the lead project designer of Portal 2, and they experimented with walking on walls, and a few of the devs got motion sickness as soon as they tried to do that. Because so anything.
Yeah. So I think that's the level of science that happens. You know, if someone in the team gets sick, then you're like, oh shit, yeah, okay, this person can't work on this level, so we have to do something. But you're like, no, we didn't have that. We kind of knew that. Okay, you know what, this game. If you're standing on the outside of a ship and it's sort of spiraling around, the whole world was gonna spin. That's automatic puke. But what are we gonna do about it? Like this? Yeah, the world will spin. You know. So we did not actually sort of. Yeah, we appreciate that this is a thing, but we couldn't really. Almost made an active decision not to try to chase that down, because it's like it's just gonna take so much time. We just hope that, you know, once we set the game in closed beta, that we wouldn't get too many people saying I can't play, and we were lucky there. So.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing any complaints about motion sickness or anything with the early access of this game.
Yeah, so, no, which is strange. I would expect that to be quite bad actually, but yeah, it's just. Because I haven't really found any real kind of science papers or anything that sort of or general advice in the industry. Okay, you know, if you make a game that moves a lot, it has to be 60 FPS or 120 FPS. That makes it better, like stuff like that, right? Yeah, well, you would assume, but I haven't really seen anything like that. So what we do is basically allow the player to kind of turn off the animating the camera and sort of camera shakes. So like. That helps some people, but it's very different. Like my wife, for example, she's extremely sensitive. You know, you could have a first-person camera, and then I would just rotate it 90 degrees to the left, just move it slowly, and she'd be like, "No, I can't watch this. This is too much." Just having a camera looking to the left, not even moving the character or anything, she can't. So there's like it's so different. I think it's very different depending on the individual as well. So yeah, it's a tricky one.
Because I feel when I was younger, I'd be able to play pretty much any FPS. But as I've gotten older, I don't know if my eyes have become more sensitive or something, but like I find if I play a first-person shooter that has too much motion blur or too much shaky cam, I'm just like, oh, you know. But then there's some games I can play that are fine. Like I can play Doom, no problem. And then but I find that with films as well. Like if I'm watching a film and there's too much shaky cam, that starts to mess with me. So
yeah. And my wife says like, oh, whatever the camera guy is doing here is like, no, and I'm like, I don't know what's okay. So yeah, I can see that, but yeah, I think but like I mentioned, now that you mentioned, it's like allowing the players to tune down those sort of micro movements of the camera to some people is sort of the one thing that seems to be standard nowadays. But in terms of like, do you play as much games as you used to?
Probably not, because I don't have as much time. So
yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah, so that probably has something to do with it as well. Yeah,
because like, at least for my personal experience, you know, playing around with VR back when that was cool, I decided like, you know what, I'm gonna do, you know, all the things that would cause me to puke until I stop puking, and then just get used to it.
Good to know.
So that I think exposing yourself, like for example, sitting on the tram or the train can also be for some people difficult. But if you do that every day, you will get better at sort of. So I think it has a little bit to do with your exposure to whatever is causing it.
I'll have to test your theory, and I'll play more first-person shooters, and then I can come back to you. Yeah.
But can you sort of with a VR kit like move your character with a WASD without getting sick?
No, VR is like that's pretty horrible for me. Yeah, okay. But I don't play a lot of VR games, so
no,
that does tie into what you're saying. So there's probably an element of truth to that. Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to ask about the third person, because obviously you basically have first person, then you go into third person with like the jetpack, and then it goes back into first person. Was that always the intent?
It was, to do it yeah. I think we're going to do a lot more of that actually. And
that's pretty sick.
and I think it sort of has a really nice effect, and I think it also gives us a chance for you to look at your own character from sort of a third-person perspective. Like, you can customize your character, you can, you will be able to unlock, cool suits, cool helmets, stuff like that, and I think it's sort of important that you get the chance to see all that stuff. So that was not the main reason why we did the jetpack. I think the jetpack was just like the visual effect and the feel of speed would sort of be emphasized much more when you see the character from third person. So you see like what's going on. And I think, like, for example, emotes today, when you're dancing or waving, you don't see much in first person, but like going out with the camera to third person, seeing what your character's doing is sort of really helpful. So I think the rule we've been having up until this point is like, either, when we have the chance, go to third person, and if your character is in a state that is not sort of normal character movement, let's say you're being tased, you're downed, you're lying on the floor, to kind of tell the player what's going on, because your movement is not what it used to be. Going out with the camera, showing a character lying on the floor, or jetpacking is a way to communicate without having to sort of show an icon or say something. You see and you understand immediately, okay, I'm locked down now because a taser drone is sort of tasing me. I can't move. So it's a tool for communication as well as it is sort of, sometimes emphasizing a certain emotion, like speed, for example, which is very difficult in space. Like, everything is so far and so distant, and like you don't have much to work with compared to driving a car. All the things are flying by, but in space you're like, yep, that asteroid is moving very slowly, it seems, and the only thing we can do is throw some gravel at the camera, right? Like some small rocks. But it helps if you're flying, you see your character in Superman mode, kind of, and the camera chasing that character kind of emphasizes the sense of speed, and we can play with FOV and stuff like that to make it feel like you're moving faster.
Did that take long to implement, to do all that camera work? No?
No.
No. Good programmers.
Yeah, I think with sort of like, so me and actually the programmer who's doing the character movement, we both worked on Hazelight and It Takes Two, where we do so many crazy things with the camera all the time. Oh, yeah. So for us, it came kind of natural to be like, okay, of course we need, it's called a spring arm, where you sort of have the camera sort of attached to the player's hips, for example, but you can still rotate it around the camera looking from third person. So technically that's called a spring arm camera. And sort of that's been, that area and field of science has been explored for quite a while. So like this, most coders who've been working with a player character kind of knows how to do a good spring arm camera. So you're like, okay, we need a spring arm. It needs to collide with the world, and sort of behave in certain ways. Okay, let's do that. And like I said, in It Takes Two, there was so much of that going on that, we didn't even think twice about it. Like, we came from that environment. Because like in It Takes Two, there's so many mechanics going on. It feels like you did 30 games in one, basically. So you had to work very fast. You're like, okay, from concept, like an idea, to a finished sort of 10, 15, 30-minute level would usually be like 3 or 4 weeks. And you had nothing when you started. And you're like, okay, but I'm going to be a toad, and then I'm going to ride this thing, and I'm going to, and like you had to work with a certain mentality and a certain mindset to be able to be that productive. And I think that carried over a little bit to Jump Space as well. So yeah, for us, it was not really a big deal to put that in and sort of make it happen. Maybe it took a week, and then I was like, yeah.
I mean, you do mention It Takes Two, and that's just like, it just feels like endless amount of mechanics, and the level design is just amazing. It does remind me a little bit of Nintendo games. Like a lot of devs I speak to, when they refer to Nintendo, they use the analogy of an onion, right? So they peel back a layer, and then there's another layer and another layer. And I kind of feel like It Takes Two is a lot like that. So were you guys referencing like Mario games and stuff when you were making that?
Oh yes. Yeah. I mean, like we had a bunch of guys in the design team who were, very into Nintendo games, very into Super Mario and stuff. I was like, dude, this is not Half-Life. What is this? Uh, so I had to do a lot of. I mean, yeah, sure, I played Super Mario 64, which I think is still absolutely amazing, and I think like the movement is still today incredible. The camera, however, not so good. But yeah. But like that was like the first game that ever had it, so like yeah, it's fine. But yeah, so we did a lot of studies. How does the camera work in the spring-on camera, the third-person camera, work in sort of the latest and greatest Mario, and I would sit together with a programmer going like looking at it, sort of like, okay, what do they do when it collides with things? So we like really break it apart.
So like frame by frame, you were looking at this stuff?
Not frame by frame, but like almost. You would really like, okay, I'm curious in this edge case, what would the camera do if I squeeze it up against the wall, like walking into a corner, and like the camera doesn't really have any space to move? Like, how do they solve that? So just like, usually you would ask yourself, have they come up with something brilliant, or are they just doing what everybody else is doing? And then you kind of see, usually it sounds like we're sitting there in a test lab or anything, but like you just play the game for half an hour when you have a question, and then that's that. But so we looked a lot at Nintendo, and I think, but I also, like I said, like some of the guys, especially in the movement of the characters in It Takes Two, we had like a group of 3 or 4 designers who were really into platforming games, and they kind of had a collective vision of what they wanted. So it was more about them just doing their thing, because like they were just miles ahead of everybody else. Okay, what is good and what is bad. Let's just let you guys do whatever you want to do. So there was a group there, and then they had like one programmer who was like implementing the sort of technical aspects, and then one designer who was very technical, who could do a lot of the code as well. So they would like sit together and actually implement the movement, and then you had the little cabal of designers around there kind of giving opinions. And then of course Josef Fares, the game director, would of course be in the loop, but he also let them do their thing, because you could tell like, okay, these guys are just really into this stuff, so we know it's going to be great. But yeah, we looked at a lot of Mario, and I remember, because like we had so many mechanics, and then I don't remember which Mario game it is, but you have like hats, so like the Mario can put on a hat Odyssey. And then it turns into something. Yeah. And we're like, shit, why did they come up with that? We wish we could come up with something like that. That's brilliant. Like you have a mechanic where you interact with something and you turn into something. That would be amazing for something like It Takes Two. I mean, we worked around it in a way, like the characters become different things depending on the story and the chapters, right? But we also thought like it would be, the one step more elegant if it was hats or something you put on your character. So like you start a new chapter, you are this. So yeah, that was a comment that we just made. Like, this is so brilliant, and more elegant than what we thought we did in It Takes Two. But at the same time, I'm not sure the players would see it that way. They would just play and have a good time. They wouldn't really like, okay, not really ask any questions, because the environment is so hilarious and crazy anyway. So
it does feel like with that game that you just, every single idea that you thought of, you're just like, oh, we'll implement that, and we'll implement this and implement that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It was like that. The first, I would say 6 months, like, because we were moving to, blah, 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 technology. They had to set up the whole project, and the coders had, we had done it A Way Out. We were done with that game. It was hugely successful. So we knew like, okay, Hazelight is going to be around for a while, because it was really like make it or break it. I was ready to just take my stuff and leave. Not because I wanted to, but because like we put everything on the line. And if the game didn't sell well, it would be game over, right? Luckily, it did really well. So then we were like, okay, It Takes Two. If you look at it from a technical perspective, it's actually very similar to A Way Out. It's like both are split screen, both are multiplayer. We kind of sort of seamlessly transition between cutscenes and gameplay. The difference would be like, okay, there's a lot more going on and more sort of power to the player and more mechanics, of course. But if you take a step back from that and just look at what needs to be presented on the screen from an engine perspective, it's very similar. So the coders had a very good vision of how they wanted to make that work a lot better than in A Way Out. And they needed time to do all that stuff. So during that time, we were just like, what are we going to do? Okay, crazy stuff. So we would just sit in design team every week, come up with a new mechanic. a new interesting way to have two characters sort of interact with each other, where they kind of needed each other. And then we would sort of, some of those ideas stuck and some didn't. So that was like the very, very first, was just very kind of anything goes, which was very stressful for me because, like I said, it wasn't Half-Life. And
well, it sounds like you're learning this stuff on the fly, right?
Yeah, you have to. But like it's because for me, the thought that I had in my head was like, okay, if we're making a game that is so fantastic and anything goes, any mechanic, any idea you have, we can make. If the game is not going to be fun, it's on me. It's on us. Because like in A Way Out, for example, like it was not so much about the game being, it was just a story about two characters, and sort of you couldn't make the characters fly, you couldn't do anything exceptional. So a lot of the cool kind of gameplay ideas like wouldn't make sense because like that's not what a character does. So you could always like, oh yeah, well, it's not the most sort of engaging game in terms of gameplay mechanics, but that's not what it's supposed to be. Okay, whatever. But this time it was the other opposite. Like, okay, if the game is not fun, it's really on me to sort of take that responsibility. So that was really concerning until you kind of got into that mindset of, I think it really helped to kind of make new mechanics every 2 weeks or something and just have this eternal kind of LAN party. It almost felt like, where you just threw stuff at the wall. You became very good at coming up with ideas that you could implement quickly and sort of try out. Because that was also a very big thing that I don't think most studios do, is that the designers or whoever had the idea of a mechanic would also be the one implementing it, at least the first draft. Like some mechanics were, of course, a bit too complicated to do alone. But if you're responsible for your own ideas, you also quickly learn to filter away the ideas that are very time-consuming, or you would only kind of put your time into something you would believe in yourself, right? Because if you kind of worked on something for 2 weeks and then you had nothing to show for it because it didn't work out, you would look like the idiot in the weekly meeting. So there was some pressure there every week. I remember, like, because you were presenting to everybody, like, okay, this is what I've been doing, and then the studio director Josef would sit there and be like, okay, that's cool, and then if you had nothing, he'd be like, why? He would, what happened for a full week and nothing? So that was actually a big driver. I mean, very stressful to some people, right? But also, I think it helped. You sort of getting out of your shell and sort of put everything aside and just sort of make things at a huge pace. I think it helped for sure. So it was a great motivator, even though it was stressful.
So what's it like working with Josef? Because he seems like the type of guy to me that would make sure that your energy is always high. He seems like a very energetic guy, which I would think would ripple into the rest of the team. Oh yeah. So yeah, we worked together actually since, I think it was like 2010. So I worked with him for almost 10 years. And I remember the first day I met him because he had an idea to make Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. I worked at Starbreeze at the time, and that is not the Starbreeze we know of today with Payday and all that stuff. Back then it was a completely different team who made, Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Dark Athena. It did The Darkness. It was like hardcore first person kind of dark, violent shooter games. And then we were at the end of production of Syndicate. And it didn't really, things weren't looking bright. It was really hard to find a new project. And then Joseph showed up and he's like, hey, I want to make this game about two brothers. It was very different from anything that Starbreeze had been doing, but they just needed something. And he was probably a person who could sort of throw in some money and sort of at least occupy a bunch of the guys at the studio. So he showed up and I was assigned to the team. And I remember him showing up and he would be completely crazy. Like, he could not sit down for 5 minutes. He'd be running around. And I remember, like, I'm sitting there like, what's going on with this dude? Like, he's exactly like, he's not pretending when he's on stage. Like, he is like that.
And when he was younger, he was much more crazy. So I remember like, okay, let's go for lunch. When he would, had his presentation, we would go for lunch, and he'd be like, hey, look what I can do. And I turn around, and he's like climbing up the wall of a facade halfway to second floor. And I'm like, we're going for lunch, dude, but what are you doing? And he's like, yeah, but this is super cool. Like, he would just be... So that's the one thing I remember. He's like, he would be running around like almost like not clown, it's not fair to say. Like, he was really funny, and he would do funny things, and whatever came into mind, he would do. The other side, which I think is really interesting from a game developer perspective, is that he came from the movie business, right? And when people are on set, the clock is ticking. Money is flowing down the drain. If someone is not doing what they're supposed to do on stage, or on set, sorry, that could delay the whole production a full day, and that would mean $10 million down the drain. So like, he had that mindset when you were sitting and working at the studio, meaning I remember this very clearly. Like, we would sit sort of in a row where like back to back. So, one person could like look down the aisle and see everybody back to back what they were doing. Because we had that lined up, and he would sit at one end. So he would see everybody's screen at any given point of time. And I would stand up because I needed to go to the toilet. And he's like, Philip, what are you doing? Oh, yeah, I'm just going to the toilet. He's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, go. So maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but there was that sort of sense of like, when you're at work, you're working. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, there could be breaks where we would have fun, but you would like, we're not fucking around. Like, money's on the line. We got to make this happen. And sort of, he brought that sort of mentality. But I think it works on sets to be that into it, because on a set, like, you don't work like that for years and years. You do it for 3 months, and then you're back to your normal life. But in a game dev studio, of course, doing that and have that intensity years and years is a bit too much. So I remember like after Brothers, the studio, basically the office closed down, and Joseph went on other things, and we kind of separated as a group. I went to Stockholm, worked at DICE, like I mentioned before. And I remember like still having that in my back of my head. So the first day, I was setting up my computer, and I needed a gamepad to kind of for my desk. It wasn't there, so I need to go to IT. So I stand up, go to IT, and on the way in the corridor, I meet my lead, and I'm like, shit. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm just getting my gamepad, and he's looking at me like, what? You don't have to explain it. What are you talking about? Like, yeah, of course. And I'm like, oh Jesus, I've been brainwashed by Joseph. So, but yeah, with time, I think sort of that sort of intensity kind of has watered. Like now, it's very different, I think. But it was quite intense. He would sort of demand, like not demand, but like if something wasn't going well, he would be like, yeah, but like, why haven't you done anything? Like, why did this fail? And he would look at you like, explain to me why it's been a full week and you have nothing to show for it. He wouldn't say it like that, of course. But you would like, oh, he has that aura. You really want to perform. But it's also really funny. Like it's really fun to be around him. And like I said, him climbing up facades, maybe he doesn't do that nowadays, but it's still, he would show around in the office and sort of goof around and do crazy things. So I think the Joseph that you see on stage receiving prizes is very much how he is. But there is this the third side is also quite interesting. Business. He is super good at business and deals. And he makes people very uncomfortable because he's kind of a bit unpredictable. So like he would show up in a meeting and he would be like, hey, look how many push-ups I can do. And he starts doing push-ups and everybody's like, what's going on? and he would be like, oh, no, this deal is not good. Then we stop production and then everybody goes home. He's like, what do you mean? No, but I want this deal to be my way. Otherwise we're all going home. And he would kind of, if he feels like he has to, he will go quite far to kind of make a certain deal happen, or sort of, and people kind of go into negotiations knowing that he is like that. With that said, he's not like, he always used to say that, you can, business and sort of creative has to meet halfway. Like he's very business oriented in the sense that, you have to make money as well. He's not just like, all hunky-dory, is flushing down tons of money in the toilet. He's quite the opposite, actually. He would be like, no, stop working on this. This is good enough. He can say that. This is good enough. Stop working on this. This is only 5 minutes of the game. Yeah, it's not the best. Whatever. Let's focus on the big sort of highlights of the game instead. Like, so he's very good at sort of finding that thing. But yeah, he also has that sort of, like, when he needs to, he can be extremely good sort of in negotiations and business as well. I've never met anybody who can sort of control the room in a way, and sort of all these suits would be like, shit, okay, what's gonna happen if we don't give him what he wants? Like, what's gonna happen?
Well, he's probably self-aware of that too. But you can just tell, like, so. He's a unique individual. Right? Yeah. You can just tell. I mean, when I've seen him at the Game Awards and stuff, I'm like, this is not someone you can control at all.
He can't control himself, to be honest. Like,
it's like the guy has permanently had like 10 cups of coffee or something.
Oh yeah. He has a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And now that's the calm version. Like, he doesn't climb the facades anymore.
Interesting.
But yeah, no, I love working with him. It was great. Like, that was actually me quitting, resigning from Hazelight to start Keepsake Games was the toughest day of my life.
What was the main reason you left? Was it just because you wanted to explore things on your own and do your own thing?
Pretty much, yeah. So jump space. I was about to say jump ship.
Well, you changed names 3 times, didn't you?
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I've been working on Jump Space for since 2012, I think, just as a hobby project. Because, like, I mean, I've been professionally level designer, so building levels my whole life, and then I thought, making games was so fun, and then working at a studio, I would be, meeting all the programmers and all the artists, and sort of being super inspired and kind of go like, okay, but I want to give all these different things a go. So the idea came from just me seeing a game called Artemis Bridge Space Simulator or something like that, which is like, a multiplayer game where you play the bridge of sort of a Star Trek ship. So, like, you have one person who is in helms, and he would just have a screen with all the dials for the helms, and then you had one pilot who would just fly and sort of very locked into your roles. And I thought, this is interesting. I wonder what it takes to make a multiplayer game. Like, because I couldn't code that. I didn't know how to do that. And then I would be like, okay, let's try it out. And sort of I would do all the research necessary and kind of like put together a prototype and sort of exploring game development and all the different aspects of that was not specifically level design, but like code and art and all these things. And I would do that for like up until 2019. So it has a long story. So I put up a video where, showing the game in 2019 that kind of got a lot of traction. A lot of people thought, wow, this is really cool. Even though it was just like, it looked like a finished game because I had put a lot of effort into the art and all that stuff, but I knew it was just a demo, technical kind of demo. So, but people didn't know that. So they would be flushing into the Discord channel. I would have thousands of people, and I would be, it was Sunday evening, and I'm sitting there by myself in underwear, like, I don't even know how to ban someone. Like, what is happening? So I had to like, okay, who like, just in the audience of all these thousands of people, like, I need someone from the US who is willing to be a moderator now. And I'd be like, yeah, I can do it. Okay, good. You're now a moderator. Make sure nobody spams. I need to go to bed. Bye. And then my phone would be plinging all the way the day after, like, as I was at work, people trying to talk to me, thinking I was a company, right? They thought it was a group or a company doing this game. And so that sparked the idea that, okay, maybe this is not what they're looking for, because it's just me goofing around for a bunch of years, not really caring about sort of the commercial aspect of what I was doing. It was just me exploring game mechanics and technology, but the vision, the fantasy of sort of what Jump Space became was certainly something that was very attractive to a lot of people, because otherwise they would not be in the Discord channel. So that's how the seed was planted, that like maybe there is something commercial here. And that's what led me to eventually resigning then, as we were wrapping up It Takes Two, to kind of explore, because like I could not working with that game for so long, and then not at least trying to make it a commercial project at some point in my career, I knew I would regret for the rest of my life. Even if I loved Hazelight, I still hang out with all those people all the time. I would never forgive myself for not trying, And then the way the industry works is, people know, but they don't realize like every project is 3-4 years. So if you say, this is my honor system is like, if I commit to a project, I will finish it, right? So I'm like, okay, if I stay, I'm going to work on something for 3-4 more years. Maybe that's too late then. Like, because like we were also at a point, like me and a very close group of friends who founded Keepsake Games, we were all magically in a position where like we were all ready to move on to something, or could if we decided to go. So there was like, we felt as a group like maybe this is the moment to kind of start something. If we're going to start something, it's now. Because we don't know where we're going to be in 3-4 years. Maybe someone has moved abroad or whatever, like kids, family, I don't know. So we decided to give it a go, and that was the moment. And yeah, so that was the reason. Really, it's not because I didn't want. I would love to stay at Hazelight. To be honest, like it's a fantastic workplace, and I grew so much, and I learned so much from everybody there. But I just felt like I had to do this thing, or else I would regret it. Yeah.
What a cool story,
even
man.
if it would turn out it sucked, I would still have had to do it,
Well, the amount of people that are interested in the game, I think one of the hardest problems for indie games is just getting eyes on it, right? Like marketing and just having people interested in it. And obviously there's a lot of people that have taken to this game. I mean, how many people were signed up to the wish list?
Over 1.1 million. Yeah.
I mean, that's a crazy amount, right? So it's awesome.
So this is it's incredible, and this is where I'm so thankful. Like, I'm not the CEO, so our CEO is a friend of mine who's been very much in sort of the business side of game development for a long time, and like we didn't know shit. I didn't know shit. I didn't even know what a wish list was. And I'm like, the way I thought marketing was working was like, okay, you just make good game, put on YouTube. That's it. And I think that would be my marketing plan. Having it not been for him. And he kept talking about, like, he worked at it's Daniel, who worked at
Daniel Kaplan.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so because he worked at Mojang, didn't he, on Minecraft?
Exactly.
Yeah,
he worked on Minecraft, but I think most notably, no, it doesn't roll off my tongue. So there are studios down in Skövde. They do not the Factorio game, but like the other one. There is like a very nice commercial version of Factorio that is like first person. What is the studio called? I can't believe it. Okay, Goat Simulator.
Oh, yes. I was going to look it up.
What is the studio called?
Goat Simulator. Hold on.
Developer, yeah.
Yeah, I got to look into it now.
Coffee Stain Publishing. Sorry, Coffee Stain.
Yes, there we go.
So that is like an amazing, like in Sweden, like amazing publisher company who started because they did, like a few game devs did really well, and they started a publishing part, and he was part of that. So he had been publishing a lot of really successful games, including the names today.
It's all right, man. It's early in the morning. It's fine.
Yeah. So,
we can just say that he knows his shit. There we go.
Okay,
He knows his shit. He's been around for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been around. So he's like, wish list. I'm like, what is that? And he's like, yeah, we gotta have a mailing list. I'm like, mail? People deal with that shit? Like, what? But it turns out like he really opened our eyes, or my eyes to how it all works, because it's actually kind of a little bit of a science how you reel people in, you grab people's interest, and once you're interested, you want them to kind of call to action, like, okay, you like what you're seeing, click here. You like what you're seeing, sign up for this email list. And we have hundreds of thousands of people sign up to this email list. And I'm like, I didn't believe that was possible, but it was very simple. You just have a web page. If you like what you see, sign up here. And people do it. So another thing that I didn't realize how important it is like we work with sort of a small agency, like who kind of hook us up with a magazine. So they are sort of our contact surface with sort of the all the magazines and all the YouTubers and all that stuff. So they kind of hook you up with all the sort of people around there. And I just thought, like, in my world, that did not exist. I didn't know that there are people who professionally do this as a living, like, who are very good at sort of, oh, yeah, you need to talk to IGN. Okay, no problem. We'll fix that. Or, oh, yeah, GameSpot. Or, okay, so you're going to do a marketing push in February. Okay, we'll line up, 20 interviews or whatever. I had no, like, I thought that's what, maybe EA would do that or Ubisoft or something. But I didn't know that it actually trickles down to much smaller studios as well. And sort of he was, directing all of these things. And I was just sitting there like, holy shit, okay. There is a science to all this stuff.
He probably has a lot of context as well, though, right?
Oh,
yeah, he's been in the industry for so long.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he would be like, yeah, I would do all this stuff myself, but I'm a bit rusty, so we have to have an agency doing it. I'm like, yeah, so yeah, it's fine, But yeah, so there is a lot of math going into, you have this many wish lists, how many % of them convert to sales, and blah 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 blah. It's like a lot of math and a lot of graphs, and I had no clue it works like this. And also, like, when you have your launch, how many sales you make the first couple of days is sort of derived from the wish lists, and then sort of the fall off, like sales going down is almost like radiation, like Half-Life, ha ha ha. So it's like it's almost like that kind of curve where it goes sort of down and then it sort of flattens out, and sort of, okay, but if you do marketing pushes or updates, you can sort of make bumps into that flattened curve. And I'm like, what? Oh Jesus. And it kind of dawns on me how when you're working with a lot of, like, masses of people, hundreds of thousands of people, like, it all becomes math. It becomes particles. It becomes percentages and sort of plots on a curve, basically. But yeah, it is. But at the same time, for each individual who is enjoying the game, that is a very personal experience to them, right? So that's just the business side of it all. That sort of evolved into something that, like, is quite calculated, I would say.
How do you pivot though? Like, because if I recall correctly, because you guys released this in September, right?
Yeah.
But, like, say Team Cherry, they announced Silksong and gave it a short release window, which is obviously like the GTA of indie games, right? It was such a massive thing. So were you guys looking at that and being like, do we move the date? Do we keep it as it is? Like,
oh yeah,
how do we respond to this? Because it was like they did a trailer, and it was like 2 weeks, I think, after they dropped the trailer that the release date was happening. And I know some indie devs were like, oh, hell with this, and then they moved the date. So were you guys having discussions about this?
Oh yeah. You do all like, I mean, I'm trying to stay away because I'm pretending to be this creative who only cares about the game. But so I'm like, Daniel, I trust you. Clearly, you've been doing amazing work so far. Like, keep doing that amazing work. If you have a question or like you're on 50-50 on something, maybe I'll pitch in. But yeah, there was definitely discussions about that. GTA, we didn't know it was going to be delayed, and we knew, like, even the biggest AAAs would also be like holding their breath. Are we going to release in September? Like, what if GTA does it? Like, nobody admits it. But we used to joke in the
everybody
studio internally. Yeah, we just joke internally that, like, they are obligated to the rest of the industry to let us know 6 months ahead, because everyone has to talk about this game. Meaning, if you are launching within those 2, 3, 4 weeks, you're screwed. Doesn't matter if you're Battlefield. Doesn't matter if you're Assassin's Creed or whatever. It's like, you're screwed. So yeah, those discussions are up all the time. And we were lucky because we had nailed our date before Silksong, and the guys were like, I mean, I didn't see it myself. I was in at Gamescom at the time, but they were like seeing the black screen, and then the September started fading in. They're like, oh shit. Then it said 4. It was like, okay, we dodged a bullet there. But yeah, Daniel has pushed releases of games because things like this before. So he's like, yeah, that's a real thing.
Yeah. Because it's so important, right? The first impression is the most important, and like that release date really does matter.
It does.
That's why I was curious. I was like, oh, did you consider this? And then obviously there is the GTA effect, but that would have been the same for everybody.
Absolutely. Right? But I used it as an example because it's like everybody was, But I mean, I hope that once we reach sort of 1.0, that we would be the ones setting the date, and then everybody else would be like, oh shit, JavaScript is coming out. We have to.
Well, you said that your aim is to create the best space adventure game of all time. That's the aim, right?
Yeah, that's definitely the aim. Yeah. I think we can do it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
I love it.
Here is the thing. So, like, I'm not ready to sort of share any numbers, but like we've been doing, like I think we said 150,000 sales or something, or 200,000. I don't know what number we said, but like we're doing really well financially, so we can keep going. Like people don't know this. We even had IGN kind of question, like, "Oh yeah, it looks promising, but there's still a lot of work to do. How long are they gonna make this game?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's not obvious for people that we're planning to do this for at least 2 or 3 years."
Wow.
So and now we're sort of financially guaranteed that's gonna happen. So I can say that with confidence, and I can also say with confidence that we're not gonna release until we kind of are confident about the game. It's not been, I think, people are used to seeing millions and millions of copies the first week because that's all you see in the media. But for a team of 16 to sell what we're doing is more than enough. And we're super happy about that. So I can say that with confidence. We are going to aim to make the best basic adventure game. And
I don't think that tells the whole story. With like AAA games, they have to do millions the first week because of the insane budgets they have, right? When you're a smaller team, you don't have to do insane numbers that.
That's a scary realization, is that like now that I've seen a little bit, like, okay, this many wish lists, okay, that converted to this many sales, and we've been extremely fortunate and sort of had a huge sort of focus on our game compared to all the most other games. We were like top 15 on Steam when we launched. That's like top 1.1% of all the Steam games or whatever when it comes to like exposure and stuff like that. And we're selling this money, like we're not in the millions, right? Yet. But then
like
you're
that
thinking,
you said yet.
Yeah. It's a yet. It's a mathematical certainty.
I love happen.
But that's the interesting part about when you're working with this many people. Like you can know almost like, okay, it's gonna happen at the latest this date. It's just math. Anyway, what the scary realization is, even if we had that exposure we've had, it was not a guarantee that we would pull in enough money to keep running. Because even 16, which sounds like a low number, there is a certain cost every month, right? And for us, it's fine. But I'm thinking of, most people say like, oh yeah, 90% of all businesses fail, within the first game or whatever. Yep. I would now, knowing a little bit more, looking at the numbers, I would say 99.999% fail. I think most big games probably fail as well, even if they sell millions. Because like there's no way, like, because they are, I would say like 50 times our size studio, like 500 people. How many, like 1 million or 4 million in the first week is not going to be enough to feed. And then you have this all 100 people for 4 years or whatever. Like, I think there is a good reason why there are so many studios going bankrupt right now. And it's because of this. Like, big studios tend to kind of, they sort of, it seems like for a while, it seems like every new game or every new big title every year was like 100 more people has been working on this. So like, oh, we have 200 people. Next year it was 300 people, and it was 400 people on this studio. And they kind of reached a sort of maximum. Now we're like, okay, we can't be more than 400 people on working on something. But the salaries have really evolved. Like when I started, I earned, even if I had a university degree and everything, I earned less than I would at McDonald's, and I would be super happy with that. That's not the case anymore. Now it's like an industry, and people pick game development as a profession rather than a passion. Everybody's paid much more accordingly to sort of more competitive salaries compared to other industries, right? So like the cost per employee as a double or triple compared to when I started, right? And then you have 400 people, 500 people. And like working at those big studios, you realize how much inefficiencies there are and how much work goes into the bin. Yep. And you kind of go like, that's not sustainable. I understand that's why they're increasing the prices now. So like, okay, you're buying a AAA for what, like $80 to $100 or something like that?
Yeah, $80 like, US. Yeah. $90 US.
Yeah, and then the deluxe edition is over 100. Yeah, so it's like they have to increase the price. Like they have no choice but to increase the price to kind of sustain what they are doing. And then probably hoping that they will sell the same amount of copies they used to. We'll see if that's true. I think some games will survive, but I think we're seeing a lot of studios going down, and I think we're going to see a lot more studios going down because the competition is fierce.
Yeah. And the other problem, I think, is in America specifically, is American salaries are much higher than the rest of the world. So, and a lot of the big AAA studios are there. So, I remember speaking to one of the Nintendo producers. He worked for Nintendo, he worked for Activision, he worked for EA. And I think he said that for $100 million budget game, you have to sell about 6 million now to break even.
That sounds low. I think you need to sell more. Yeah, sure. I buy that. But
on average,
still, and that's going to be hard. Because the thing is, it's also like back like when I was 20, so like 15 years ago or whatever, like, there's a reason. Okay, I don't know if this is true, but, do you know what AAA comes from? No. Like, why is it called AAA game?
Well, no, I don't actually know, so this is good education.
Yeah. It's a bit of a nugget. I don't know if it's true, but I think it's true. And that is because when you're looking at countries and companies, or like when there are like companies who rate other companies. Like if you want to give a loan to someone, you have a rating of like, is this a safe investment? Like a bank would give me a loan for a house, let's say. They could rate me to be like, okay, is Philip sort of a person who will pay his dues or no? And they have like a rating for that. So like America has a rating. So if you're borrowing money to America, for example, everybody can look up the rating. And the rating is, AAA, AAB, AABB, or BBB. So it's like a rating of how safe investment it is.
Wow.
So if you would borrow money to say India or China, that would be a lower rating than the US. But the US is not the highest rating anymore. And that was a bit of a drama, but that happened. Then you have other countries who are AAA, whatever. So I think it comes from that mindset that like when that was coined, it was more like, this is a safe bet. This studio is making game X and it's a safe bet. So this is a AAA investment. And now we make that equivalent to a big budget, which was kind of true for a while. But I think that's changing. People don't really care about, the sculpted tear canals of characters anymore. They care about what you do in the game and sort of the dynamic interaction you have with the game, or sort of, this very complex set of parameters per person, right? What makes that tick? And it's clear it's not necessarily big budgets. You have some games that probably will survive the test of time. I truly believe Call of Duty, for example, is one of them. That like they know what they're doing, and it's like going to McDonald's. Sometimes you just want a hamburger. And like, it's not the best burger, but you know what you're going to get. Same with Call of Duty. Sometimes I just want to blow stuff up and then I go to Call of Duty, or maybe Diablo, maybe
World of Warcraft.
Battlefield. Yeah. World of Warcraft, good example. So like those will remain. But the rest I think is shifting a little bit and we don't really know where it's going to go. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, 6 million copies for, you say $100 million? No?
Yeah, 100 million, 6 million units.
I think that's too low. It has to be more.
Well, what do you think it is? Are we talking like 8 million? Like, because obviously you have to take into
10
account
10 million, maybe.
10 million. You think 10? So 100 million, you need to sell 10 million units.
I'm thinking, okay, if this is a AAA company with the waste they have in terms of manpower and the salaries that they have in the US, yeah, I think 6 million is probably like a barely break even. Yeah,
that's crazy, man. It's probably a little bit easier for, like, say, Sony and Nintendo because they don't have to pay like the 30%, because you know how Steam takes a 30% cut.
Yeah.
So with their exclusives, obviously they get 100% of the profit if it's digital, right? If they're buying digitally, as opposed to retail, because retail take quite a bit as well. So
yeah.
Man, that's crazy if that's true, though. 10 million units.
I mean, this is just top of my head.
Yeah,
guessing,
we're theorizing.
Still, but yeah, like, that's why I'm like, shit, 99.99% are failing. Like, it's so fierce. So we'll see where, to me, I feel like the industry is really in sort of a shift right now. We don't really know where we're going to be in 5 years in terms of, like, how many AAAs are going to be there, how many AAs are going to be there, because they are shutting down left and right here in Stockholm as well. A lot of them are struggling finding fan. Yeah, a lot.
I thought Europe was doing a bit better than the US.
I'm
or
not
is it the
so
same?
sure. I think it's because we don't get as much publication. But like, we don't end up in the news as much as Americans do for some reason.
That's probably true. Most of the media, most of the news is all American centric.
Yeah. But like, from my perspective, like, we have a bunch of younger colleagues in the studio, and some they lose their, like, not lose their friends. Sorry, their friends lose their jobs, and they get a bit worried. And it's interesting because, like, me and friends of my age kind of like has a very different perspective, because like, we were about to join the industry in 2008, with the financial crisis. And back then, at least in Sweden, we had like 4 or 5 big studios. It was like DICE, we had Grin, was a big studio. We had Starbreeze, Massive Entertainment, and Avalanche Studios. Those were the 5. And over the course of 1 week, one of them went bankrupt. The other one had to cut half the staff, meaning the entire country had now, like, the entire Swedish gaming industry had like 25-30% of the workforce out of a job. And that's where I'm coming in, like, hey, I'm from school, like, I'm good at making levels and shit. And they're like, yeah, you read the news? Literally, that's what I heard. Like, I was going for an interview and they're like, have you read the news? Yes. Okay, maybe we should reschedule, or maybe never ever talk again. I'm like, okay, cool.
Jeez.
So what happened then, because that was like, I mean, you can't even compare it to today. Back then, like, that amount of people, like, you would have to go abroad. So I had buddies who just went to the UK or looked at the US. And, if the 1 or 2 years, it all kind of settled and sort of adjusted and more money flew in or whatever, and then you could get a job again. But like, that really sort of made a mark in sort of how I look at things. So I keep reminding everybody, like, this is nothing compared to how bad it could be. And sort of back in my day, you were, I was hell bent. Like, it's like, I don't have a choice. In my head, I had to work in the gaming. I have to I cannot work at anything but making games. If that makes me travel the world, then so be it. Like, that was like, yep. So I was getting a university degree for one reason, and that was to get in the US easier. Because you could get a visa easier if you had a university degree or something like that, I think. So I was just like, I remember calling my mom and like, hey, there was a studio in Belarus who was looking for a level designer, and she's like, you don't go there, man. Like, you're not going to Belarus to work like that. You can work wherever you want, but not Russia and not Belarus. And this was, like, back then, it wasn't like Russia was not what it was to, like, obviously she had been living through a little bit more of the Cold War, or the end of Cold War, and me growing up in the 90s, like Russia was not this sort of, it was more like a joke when they had the submarines coming into Swedish.
She made the right call.
Yeah, she made the right call. Like, what if I ended up there? It's like crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where I come from, where working abroad was probably the only option I had in my head, at least. So yeah, it can go that bad for sure. Yeah.
Well, I just hope that the game is a continued success. I don't want to end on a down note, but I will ask: are you planning to release when it's actually released? Are you going to release it on consoles as well, like PlayStation and Switch? I mean, I don't know what the heck's happening with Xbox and Microsoft at the moment, but
yeah. So the game is out on Xbox right now. It's maybe not in the best shape, but we decided to go with one console, and so we were so small that we couldn't do all the consoles at the same time. It turned out that we're a bit overstretched. The Xbox version is a bit undercooked at the moment, which is super embarrassing. But we're doing everything we can to fix that. But I think we'll have it sorted out quite soon. And then, once we've done one console, it's much easier to do 2 or 3 consoles. So absolutely. But which consoles, you never know what's going to happen in a year or 2 years from now. So whether that's going to be maybe Nintendo, Switch 2 or whatever, maybe that's the coolest thing on the market. Maybe there is a new Steam Deck handheld kind of ish thing that, everybody's talking about. Maybe that's interesting. We'll have to be nimble and see where the industry is at that point. It seems like things are moving really quickly, but yeah, long answer, but short one would be yes.
Yeah. Well, the industry, as you said, is changing so fast, so quickly, and you have to try and be as agile as possible and pivot quickly if you need to. It's probably easier to do as an indie. It would be a lot harder to do if you're a AAA.
Yeah,
because there'd be a lot more bureaucracy involved and a lot more risk and so forth. But
yeah. I mean, for us, it's like one conversation. Somebody says, you know what? Should we do Switch 2? And I'm like, yeah, it feels good. Okay, that's it. Versus that would be a massive endeavor just to come up to the decision in a big company. Yeah. So absolutely.
Well, cool, Philip. Cool. I could talk to you for hours, man. This has been great. But I will let you get back to it. But all the best with Jump Space, and I'm speaking to you and the entire team. I hope it's a continued success, and you keep building and building on it. It's cool that you've had this idea since 2012, and it's come to fruition. That must be very cathartic in a way.
Yeah. But it's a long process. I don't think I've internalized the game is out. I feel like it's probably going to take a few years before you feel like, okay, it's over now.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. It's how many people can live with that story and sort of feel like it actually came to be. It happened, right? After all these years. I'm very fortunate.
Yep. So if anybody wants to check this out or stay up to date with what you and Keepsake Games are doing, where's the best place for them to do that?
So, I mean, we have our Discord channel, which is that's the center of where everything is happening. But you can buy the game on Steam. I think that's the preferable place, Jump Space on Steam. And I think we have 1 trillion links to the Discord channel. That's where all the devs are hanging out. I'm hanging out there every day. So we're having a dialogue with the team community constantly. So yeah, if you want to reach out to me, I think that's even the best, to just ping me on Discord and maybe I'll answer.
If you're not busy. Yeah.
If I'm not busy, I'll try to sometimes I'm busy, maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, there's the show, everyone. Make sure you share, like, and subscribe. And until next time, stay safe.